The fall 2025 season of Investigation with Dr. T is proudly centering on our institution's newly designated prestigious R1 Carnegie classification. We're seizing this moment to go deeper, think bigger, and highlight the game-changing work that's happening. So each episode this fall is going to spotlight cutting-edge research initiatives, groundbreaking studies, and powerful doctoral dissertations led by PhD and EDD students, research-engaged faculty, field-based research practitioners, and community partners. So we're going to focus on vital sectors like education, criminal justice, human services, while also welcoming special guests from the College of Psychology, College of Dental Medicine, and the College of Computing and Engineering. And join us as we celebrate our journey into R1 territory and explore what it truly means to lead with research, lead with scholarship, and lead with purpose. So stay tuned. Fall 2025 Investigation with Dr. T. It's going to be unforgettable. Welcome, everybody, to Investigation with Dr. T. I am Dr. Grace Telesco, and allow me to please read to you the bios of our two guests tonight, Dr. Tara Jungerson and Miss Jenna Stein. Dr. Tara Jungerson is a professor in the Clinical Mental Health Counseling Program in the Department of Counseling at Nova Southeastern University College of Psychology. Dr. J has trained and supervised clinical mental health counseling students and chaired the department through first-time program accreditations. Her current research focuses on intimate partner violence, trauma, and violence prevention through the use of sociodrama. She is currently co-authoring the 4th edition of the Survivor Therapy Empowerment Program, which is a trauma-informed treatment program for survivors of gender-based trauma, and serves on the Broward Domestic Violence Council. She's currently the editor-in-chief of Trauma Counseling and Resilience, the Journal of the International Association for Resilience and Trauma Counseling, and she is a Florida licensed mental health counselor. She's also a qualified supervisor for the mental health and marriage and family professions in Florida, a certified clinical mental health counselor, and a national certified counselor. And what she doesn't say in her bio is she is also the co-advisor for Stage for Change, Sociodrama organization, student organization here on campus. And Miss Jenna Stein, credentialed prevention specialist, certified by the Florida Certification Board, currently serves as a lead prevention specialist with the United Way Broward's Coalition on Behavioral Health and Drug Prevention, formerly the United Way of Broward County's Commission on Behavioral Health and Drug Prevention. That's a mouthful. Where she oversees prevention initiatives and leads youth programs, including the Broward Youth Coalition and Youth Action Team. She's a graduate of SUNY, University at Albany, and is passionate about empowering young people to make positive change and positive choices and become leaders in their communities. She's no stranger to coalition work, bringing nearly 2 decades of experience in the fields of behavioral health, substance abuse, prevention, and youth engagement. And so welcome to my guests. I am so excited about you guys being here tonight. And let me just tell you a little bit about what tonight is going to be about. So I'm Dr. Grace Telesco, the director of the School of Criminal Justice and your host. And we're going to explore an innovative and creative approach to tackling one of the most pressing issues facing our schools and communities today, and that's bullying among at-risk youth. And through a President's Quality of Life grant, NSU researchers and community partners are examining the use of sociodrama, an interactive and experiential method that helps participants explore attitudes and emotions through role play and storytelling. So joining me tonight, as I said, Dr. Tara Jungerson and Ms. Jenna Stein. Thank you guys for being here. Let me spotlight you for everyone to see. And what happened? Where's Jenna? Oh, there she is. Okay. Awesome. I got to add the spotlight. So it's so wonderful to see you both, and both to be here with me tonight. Really so happy about it. And we're going to talk a little bit about, the work that we've done together, which we've done a lot of work together, actually. It's not just this last year with the quality of life grant. We've been doing this for several years. Right, Jenna, how many years is it that we're doing this work together?
Over 3 years, and we have coordinated together and partnered together for our alternative spring break, which I could get into more details a little later. But
Yes.
we did over four of those together.
Fabulous. That's right. That's right. And so, and Tara, you and I have been working together since we did Red Flags together. I think Red Flags
Right.
first time that we were together working on this. So we decided that we were gonna, since we were doing the work anyway, to apply for a President's Quality of Life grant. We received it. Yay. As a result of the study and the work, um, Tara and I were blessed to be able to go to Barcelona, Spain, and present on this and in front of a very, very, very large, not really audience. But in any event, it was so cool to be able to present at the International Congress for Law and Mental Health. And that was really very prestigious for us. And we were very, very excited about it. So we're going to talk about, first, we're going to launch into sociodrama. Okay, what is this thing called sociodrama? And I've been doing educational theater and work like theater techniques in the classroom and in a training environment since 1985. That's a really long time. I studied with Theater of the Oppressed group in Manhattan, New York, but I also, my undergrad, in the beginning of my undergrad experience and journey, I was a theater major and a screenwriter and a filmmaker, like that kind of thing. And so, the fact that I became a cop and then a professor is like so not what I really wanted to do when I was a little kid. I really wanted to be a theater person or a film person. So, I mean, I get to share some of those talents a little bit
Yeah.
here anyway. So all is not lost. But Tara, we're going to start with you, ask you the
Sure.
question about for those unfamiliar with sociodrama, what is sociodrama and how does it differ from any kind of traditional role playing or therapy models?
Well, first off, Dr. Teleska, thank you so much for that warm welcome and for your work and everything that you've done, not only with sociodrama, but your work with this wonderful webinar and your support for your students. But just to kind of circle back, sociodrama, as you said, educational theater. It's a dynamic, it's a creative experience, it's a technique that dramatizes scenarios based on kind of real life social issues. And it helps to promote like awareness, and ultimately behavior change. So unlike traditional role play where you're kind of like focusing on maybe skill building or demonstrating a perfect skill in a controlled setting, sociodrama just gets in touch with that creativity and it immerses you and the audience, the actors, the audience, the joker, as Grace, as you were so wonderfully play, into these really emotionally charged reality-based scenes that really reflect how complex some of these issues are, how complex relationships are, societal challenges, but I think a lot of what we've focused on has been bullying and bullying prevention. And so obviously I'm a mental health counselor and I kind of do historically, traditionally talk therapy, but this is definitely a break from conventional models, the way it's structured and just the engagement, which moves past kind of a cognitive or a thinking part of your brain and really kind of gets into, in addition to getting inside characters' heads, it gets into choices, social dynamics, and even though it's not therapy, it can be therapeutic
Yeah.
with its impact.
And I know that some people get it confused with psychodrama, which is
Yeah,
something completely different. Moreno's work,
right.
it can have a little bit of a that that feel, that Gestalt feel,
Mhm.
possibly to it. And everybody's role played and been involved in some type of role playing at some point. But what really separates the way I see sociodrama from everything else is those aspects that you mentioned, like the Joker, the stepping in technique, the bubbling technique, and basically staying in character and speaking to the audience, and the audience having a chance to really get inside the head of the character. So those are some nuances, maybe, but I think that it really I'm a big fan of it, obviously. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm doing it for a very, very long time. And I see that it's worked with numerous populations and any kind of audience. And it really doesn't matter how many people are in the audience either. It really,
Mhm.
really doesn't matter what the topic is. It's really powerful work. So thank you again for being my right hand and my partner.
Yeah, thank
And
you. You've you have built this program here and this club, and you've been amazing
thank you.
with your expertise.
Well, thank you for saying that. So, Jenna, I'm going to ask you the question of from the United Way perspective, right? So, from this nonprofit organization that does all of this amazing, great work, and if you wanted to, you could sort of plug that first, just like for people who may not even know what, well, United Way, they've probably heard of United Way Broward. What's the difference? And what about the Youth Coalition and any of that stuff that you want to just talk about before I ask you the question of, so, from the United Way's perspective, what made this project a good fit for our partnership?
Excellent. Well, first, I want to say thank you so much for the invitation for tonight. I'm so honored to be here on the podcast and to be able to connect with everyone here. So, for many people who may not know, we actually have what's called a coalition, and our main focus is substance use prevention for the entire county. Our action teams are actually open to anyone who lives, works, or goes to school in the county. And one of these amazing action teams is called the Broward Youth Coalition, BYC for short. And the Broward Youth Coalition is any middle or high school student who, again, lives or goes to school in Broward County. They have a bunch of different clubs, and we do substance use prevention and mental health awareness. And so your question actually, why we are such great partners and a good fit is because within that mission, it's kind of like a no-brainer. The Sociodrama, we're always looking for creative, interactive, fun ways to teach our youth. And the Sociodrama just became a great hit from the first time, I think it was 3 to 4 years ago that we heard about it. We came to see it firsthand at NSU, and there's no other way to put it. Me and my colleagues and everyone who saw it, we fell in love. We said every student needs to see this, no matter the topic. And as you said, the audience is crucial, whether it's 2 people or 10 people. And it's just, we've been partnering together, as I said before, over 4 alternative spring break events, which the Broward Youth Coalition students helped put together.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm going to just bring Tara back for a minute so that we could maybe talk a little bit about, see, I'm throwing you a curveball now because it's not one of the questions that I asked ahead of time, but that's okay because you know it, you know what it is. So I want to just maybe talk a little bit about the actual sociodrama that we did as part of the Quality of Life grant. So we had this room filled with middle school students and their parents in some cases, in a lot of cases, there were a lot of adults in the room. It wasn't just the kids. Well, one of the things that just like blew me away this time specifically was one student in particular, or am I getting that mixed up with another time? He was like amazing. This kid should have been a professor at, Fischler or College of Psychology or something, or maybe a new board member at United Way. This kid was light years ahead of his time, and he stood up and he was just one of those upstanders. I mean, I think that that's what we kind of like focus on when we're talking about bullying and we're doing a bullying sociodrama. We have to show the problem first. So first we do that. We illustrate what's the problem so that the audience can kind of identify, okay, the characteristics of bullying, who's doing the bullying, and then what about the people that are just watching and what is their responsibility? So, I mean, I don't know. Tara, do you want to go into it a little?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. So, in particular, is it okay if I talk about What's Eating Alex and the one we did for
Please.
this? Yeah.
Yes.
So, What's Eating Alex? Imagine you're in an auditorium, like Grace said, full of middle schoolers, high schoolers. Sometimes their guardian, their friends, whatever, their siblings, and you're watching these 7 actors And they are doing basically three scenes. The first scene of What's Eating Alex, you have the character, and she appears to be maybe eighth or ninth grade, and texting her friend who's off the stage. And in this text chain, it's there's a screen in the auditorium, and the text is going back and forth on the screen. So the audience is getting to read the text chain as the two best friends are texting each other. And so what they see in the text is that the audience sees at the same time that our main character Alex sees, is that there's a meme going around. And the best friend has to inform Alex that, oh my gosh, you haven't seen this meme, where it was very, disparaging, and whatever. And so they display, then we display this screen of, I believe, and Grace, correct me if I'm wrong, she had the something about her eating habits, and I think there was a pig or something on that, and along that lines. And so Alex, of course, is devastated. She's humiliated. She's distraught, and she gets up and runs off the stage. And right at that point is when Grace yells, "Freeze!"
Right.
Right?
And
Yeah.
then we go to the audience and we say, like, what's going on? Let's identify all of the various problems that we see from this character, what this character has going on. And, body image was one thing for sure.
Right.
There were some hints, I think, around self-harm
Yep.
that had
Yeah.
going on there. The mom was a single parent who was doing a lot
Yeah.
of work and out constantly, but not like fooling around out, but working
Yeah.
out. And, kind of like I think that Alex felt a little neglected, perhaps. I don't
Yeah.
think that
A
the
little bit.
mom actually was being neglectful, but it was
Right.
circumstantial neglected.
Yeah, because mom was working and stuff, and even before that, though, even after this, her bullies, even in the cafeteria scene where they come and she's just trying to eat her lunch in peace, and they're calling her names to her face. There's a bystander, presumably maybe hearing what's going on, maybe not. They throw her lunch away, and
Right.
then again, same thing, freeze, we process with the audience, and then finally at the end, the Alex is coming home with her mom and trying to, I think it might have been her birthday even, and there are some hints, based on the end of the scene, and the end of the action is where she may possibly have some self-harm as
So
well.
Jenna, like asking you're in the field, you're
Mhm.
doing it, you're doing the work, and you're right there, elbow to elbow with the kids. Um, how realistic was the scene, do you think?
Completely and utterly realistic. I know I have seen many students as well as their parents, they get emotional in the scene, or they'll even yell out, "That just happened to me, last week." The reactions to the students when they, especially in this one in particular, um, that's how you know that it's really real for them. And that leads me to a point that BYC is actually student-led, adult-guided, and everything we try to do is peer-to-peer. And one thing I love about the social drama is that many of the college students resemble the high school students in both age and appearance.
Right.
So this often influences how the younger audience observes and engage with them compared to when an adult is present. So that's also part of it, why they're like, oh, that happened to me, because they also really are relating to what they see as their own peers up on the stage.
Right, exactly. And from a psychologist perspective, what what is the or what are rather the deleterious outcomes of bullying, and how does this impact mental health, and then ultimately some of the things that we're seeing, the tragic outcomes for youth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, if you're imagine that you have, when you're if you yourself are sitting in this room and kind of watching what's going on, and you yourself have experienced that, you are taken to this place where obviously it doesn't feel good. It feels terrible. The humiliation, the embarrassment, the isolation that these kids feel. And some may have support, some may have, trusted adults or whatever that they have in their life, but a lot don't. And it of course can lead to mental health issues, to depression, to anxiety, to not being able to engage in all of those, pro-social and helpful activities that help pull us out of depression, whether it's being in a club or a sport or arts or creativity. When you feel ugly inside and people have made you to feel ugly inside, you don't want to get out there and have people see that.
Right.
So it can have long-term effects.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Now from like a research perspective, because like this is the season to spotlight our R1
Mm-hmm.
designation.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's no NSU employee that has not heard and been excited about the fact that we are now designated this R1 prestigious distinction.
Mm-hmm.
So I also have a lot of my audience members right now are in research methods one at the PhD
Mm-hmm.
level, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
just want to do a little, like a little research methodology terminology for a
Sure.
minute and just kind of say like the sociodrama and the exposure to the sociodrama was the independent variable here,
Mm-hmm.
was the intervention, if you will, right? Or the
Mm-hmm.
thing that's going
The
to
intervention.
explain an outcome. And the
Mm-hmm.
outcome was the dependent variable outcome was in fact attitudes
Me
about
too.
bullying. And so this question is to you, Dr. J, in your study, what shifts did you see in attitudes toward bullying after they participated in the session?
I know everyone wants to hear about T-scores and P. No, I'm just kidding. But we can talk a little bit though about very, very promising shifts in attitudes about among at-risk youth, right? And while this overall change in bullying attitudes wasn't statistically significant due to the small sample size, right? We can't control how many people attended, but we did individual item analysis, and it showed meaningful improvements. In particular, that participants of the sociodrama, so those in the audience who watched and were there as participants, they were significantly less likely to agree with the statement that, quote, most people who get bullied ask for it. And so that could indicate increased empathy towards bullying victims and bullying survivors. But what was important with this research is that every participant reported being more likely to intervene while witnessing bullying after the sociodrama experience. And this suggests, again, a powerful shift from being a passive bystander to being an active upstander. And this was such a key goal for this intervention and something we were really pleased to see. So nearly all participants expressed interest in coming back and attending future performances. So that was, again, really good to hear. And they were going to recommend the experience to peers. So I think this is a way, again, just to how to resonate, how to make an impact. No, middle schoolers and high schoolers, they don't want someone coming and lecturing to them or things like that. And to actually immerse them in that where they can identify, as both of you said, really was effective as part of the intervention.
Yeah, absolutely. And this next question about impact goes to Jenna. So, what impact have you seen on the youth participants, not just during the session? Everybody's polite. They fill out a survey and it's like, yeah, yes, this was so effective. And yes, I've changed my mind about how I feel about this. But really, behind closed doors, is there change? Does change take place? Is there real true impact? Maybe not empirically, but maybe anecdotally, we know. So tell me, Jenna, what do you think? What's the impact?
Yeah, I think it's important to, I think it was already discussed, but just to make it clear that parents were also encouraged to come to the Alternate Spring Break event as well. And so this particular experience really allowed for the parent and the youth to continue having meaningful conversations together, that conversations they might not have had otherwise. And so this really impacted the relationship of the child because now maybe they're able to open up to their parent or another trusted adult. So the next time that bullying occurs, whether it's to them or to someone else, they're going to now maybe talk to a trusted adult. And so impactful how really the kids go up on stage and the young students, I mean, some of them come who were even younger than middle school, and they find the most creative and unexpected ways to stand up to bullying that adults would never have anticipated. As you mentioned, like, you know, the little boy that went up, but really we all took something from the kids that went up, and same with their peers. And I think that they took whatever those tools were and really felt empowered for their entire future. And really the main question that you asked, the impact, the conversations that are had between the parent and the students, I'm just told dozens of times they would not have had it otherwise if they didn't come to see the social drama.
Yes. So now I'm going to go off script a bit, just for real quick, but it's okay. We'll survive it. I did something with you in at the Museum of Discovery, and it was over the summer, and it was about suicide, mental health, suicide, again, at-risk youth. And we did that sociodrama, and it was specifically on, you know, mental health issues and suicidal ideation and suicidal outcomes, right? So we do our thing, and you know, people come up to you at the end, and they always do. It's like, ah, this was so great. It was so great. And, you know, people like to be entertained also while they're learning, you know, and it's kind of like when we give our dog medicine and we hide it in peanut butter. So sociodrama is like kind of hiding the medicine in peanut butter, if you will, because you're so excited about it and you get so into it and it's entertaining, but you're not even realizing how immersed you are in the subject matter, which is really, really cool. So after this sociodrama that we did at the Museum of Discovery, we're all kind of huddled around, and you know, with the students, my students from the ensemble, from the Sociodrama Stage for Change ensemble, and we're talking, and then this lady, this woman, this parent comes over to us and says, "I just have to tell you something, that this was so impactful." Before the sociodrama and before the program, I was in my car and I wanted to drive my car into a tree. And she said, I didn't realize how I was actually feeling until I just now saw the sociodrama. And now I recognize what I need to do to get help. And, you know, she was crying. We were crying. It was ridiculous, like how how we were reacting to this. Which was really the meaning of the work. Like right there, that's the work. A second example I just want to give really quick was when I was doing something for women in distress, and I was working with another university, and we were doing a sociodrama about intimate partner violence. And one of the students that I had been working with stood up. He was a character. And then when we broke character at the end and had the actors actually talk, he apologized to his wife in the audience and totally disclosed his own personal failings as a husband, his jealousy, his isolating her. And he had been working on the sociodrama with us. And he had been, you know, rehearsing and storyboarding it and all. But it wasn't until the end of the whole process that he recognized his own stuff, and he was also emotional, talking to his wife, asking his wife for forgiveness for the way in which he's behaved. So, like, I mean, if that's not effective change as a result of a technique, I mean, I don't know what else is, really. Dr. J, anything, and Jenna, anything that you'd want to add to that?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Having the ability to get in touch with those emotions in a non-threatening environment, right? I mean, if you think of couples counseling or individual therapy or things like that, where the spotlight is on you, and yes, that can be very healing and therapeutic. but just the powerful lesson in the moment. I know we're telling all these examples of both actors, attendees, everyone, participants that have experienced this, and yeah, you can't help but be impacted. You can't help but be
Jenna, anything you
affected.
want to add to that?
Yeah, and I mean, great minds think alike. I had actually spent all week thinking about our experience together at the MODS, the Museum of Discovering Science. And it was back, I even wrote it down, September 17, 2002, for the Wellness and Prevention Day, and how we did the social drama and suicide prevention. We always say that if we impact one person, the event was worth it. Part of what I do is community events for low cost for all of Broward County. And that event, I always bring back that example, how that person then came up and disclosed how they had, the suicidal thoughts. And that's why we even brought this topic back in April. I don't want to go too much into what we did in Pompano Beach, our town hall with Broward County Public School and Youth Action Team, and as well as our alternative spring break back in this March. But we touch on topics that are somewhat taboo. So I know today we're talking about bullying, but sometimes bullying does lead to those suicidal thoughts. And so we're, through this fun, interactive way, we're able to touch on those topics. And to close out, part of that also is we always talk about resources. So when they come up, not only are we giving them help, but we're giving them, okay, where do you go? So I'm actually going to say it here right now, because if anyone's watching this needs to know that we have 211 Broward. They could call 24/7 for absolutely anything. And if anyone is having any of those suicidal thoughts, they could also dial 988 anywhere in the nation. So I just want to make sure to say those resources that we have for completely free 24/7.
And
Excellent. Thank you.
texting 988 too. We can text as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Text 988.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thank you. Um, this question is going to go to Dr. J. So, what does this method teach us as educators,
Hmm.
as practitioners, about the power of experiential learning in addressing social issues?
Well, rather than answer it directly, I might kind of give just an example. If you think back to a time, it could be in school, it could be even professionally, in a job or something, and you think about seeing somebody getting bullied, right? And maybe you didn't know what to do, right? Maybe you froze, you didn't know what to say. But then now imagine being part of this live interactive sociodrama where you don't just watch the bullying happen, you actually get to step into the scene and affect change. You can practice behaviors, you can practice what you would do. And that's really the power of this, right? It's not just a lesson, it's an experience. Your students or participants aren't sitting through this drama. They're actually part of these real life scenarios. And so by feeling the tension, by feeling the fear, the pressure that this person's on, they actually get to, reflect and rewrite the story. They get to practice being an upstander. And so again, this kind of learning, it hits differently, right? It gives you that empathy, it gives you that insight, whether you yourself were bullied or you again have seen it happen, which a lot of us have, right? It sparks this critical thinking. It sparks this ability to step in and perhaps behaviorally rehearse what you will do the next time you come upon it. So it's not just imagining it; it's actually practicing and rehearsing it.
Awesome. The other thing that I see change, and I mentioned it in the example, was the change of the actual ensemble members,
Mm,
the actors themselves, immersed in a topic that they actually have to like storyboard it. They use a little bit of foreign theater, a little bit of it. I'm going to be doing a big foreign theater experiment, if you will, on November 4th. It's for a first wave experience, which is for freshmen. Foreign theater is basically you go to the actors and you ask them about the issue and any experiences that they may have and stories they may tell. And then the group picks the most theatrical, the one that has the most theatrical value or is easy enough to to reenact, and then they do that, and whoever's story it is the director, and they
Mhm.
direct the scene. And so our students at Stage for Change, and we have Eddie Hammonds is with us
Mhm.
tonight. He's not only my project manager, team captain of production, but he's also the president of
Mhm.
Stage for Change. And so he'll come on later and he'll do a little plug. But it's the students themselves, the actors themselves, immersed completely in this topic, that they're literally putting on the characteristics of the problem or of the issue,
Mhm.
and not just acting it, but living it. And as they do that, there change is happening within them. Like, and I know because I've been doing it for so long, that I have students who are now, like, in their, geez, I can't even believe that, like, that they're in their 40s, right?
Right.
Anyway, they tell me about how their work in sociodrama was the thing that they will never forget from college, their college experience. And so I just think it's really valuable work, really valuable. So Jen, I want to ask you, finally, how do you envision either scaling or sustaining a project like this beyond this initial grant? And by the way, we don't need the grant to do it. So, spoiler alert, but that's true. We don't really need a grant. So, what do you think about our work together going forward?
Yeah, I mean, we have done over 4 alternative spring breaks together, and I plan to continue for 2026. Um, and I and like you said, even if money, you know, is or isn't an issue, that we continue to make it happen. We also do data. Everything the coalition does, if my department, we call it data to action. So every single event, we have always done a survey afterwards, and every single social drama, almost all the students always report that they would attend a social drama again and that they would recommend this performance to a friend to watch. So based off that alone, we want to make sure that we continue having this at least once a year. I know last year we partnered for 2 events together. And so we hope this year, like I said, to just continue to make that happen, because everything's student led, adult guided, and the students tell us time and time again that they are really love the social drama, and we see that they're positively impacted by it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that sometimes there's a misunderstanding maybe in academia. I don't know, because I feel like I'm more of a practitioner academic than a
Mhm.
straight academic, pure, not a pure academic. But a lot of academics and researchers, scholars, like they kind of like look at this work as like, well, it's just like entertainment. But I think that the value of the entertainment is part of its charm, and that rather than a PowerPoint, rather than a paper presentation or a poster presentation or whatever it might be, it's just it's not going to have the passion and the literal drama that
Mhm.
sociodrama has to offer. But I'm gonna give you guys the chance to have last words. So we'll start with Dr. Jungerson, and then we'll go
Mhm.
to Jenna.
And Grace, you bring up such important points. Yes, research and scholarship, it is critical. It is important to have that evidence basis for what we do, and that's why I look so forward to continuing this research and working and collecting more data and being able to get both quantitative and qualitative data to support the changes. But at the same time, as you said, if the message is not getting out, whether to middle, elementary, high school students, college students, even adults, and we've done sociodrama with faculty, right? And it is so important for them to experience it and to help hopefully have some of the contagious passion that we have for it rub off on them, so we can continue doing the work we do, because times are hard, and anything we can do to reduce this culture of cruelty that I think is so prevalent, and I think is it's worthwhile, and it's what I hope to continue doing with your support, of course, Dr. Telesko.
Yes, and your support, of course. I can't do it without you. I always like to have,
Can't do
the
it without
expert
you.
on the floor. And I
Mhm.
don't mean like that Dr. J is laying on the floor or anything like that, but she's on the floor. You know what I mean?
Sometimes when
She's
I'm
my
acting.
She's my SME. She's my subject matter expert on the
Mhm.
floor to field questions, because we're talking about issues that are life and death issues. And one of our motto is even if we change one life, then it was worth, if we change or save one life, it's worth all of our efforts because there's an awful lot of effort that goes into these. It's not just, improv. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of commitment on the part of the students. I just get up there and do the joker piece, the facilitator piece. I think I was born to be, I don't know, a game show host or something. I don't know, but it just comes natural to me. It's not that much work. I don't feel like it's heavy lifting, but I think that the students are doing the heavy lifting
Mhm.
by, meeting, trying to corral. It's like herding cats sometimes with
Mhm.
trying to get students on board with a mission. I think
Mhm.
that Eddie's going to come on later and kind of plug because Stage for Change, by the way, won a Stewie, which
Woohoo.
very, very proud of that we won that. We were nominated, I think we were nominated every single year, but we didn't win, like Susan Lucci. But ultimately we did win. And it was very exciting to have their peers, say, hey, this is great work that you're doing, keep it up. But our numbers are diminishing. And I think that that's something that's happening all over, whether it be enrollment, whether it be students' interest in organizations. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but now more than ever, because you're absolutely right, Dr. Jungerson, that we're in a culture of cruelty right now. I mean, we're seeing this from folks that we would hope are not like kind of encouraging cruelty. We would hope that some of our institutions aren't doing that, but yet we're seeing that. We're seeing that unfold. And so it makes it okay then. Then there's permission giving about it's okay to be cruel. It's okay to mock your enemy. Well, who's your enemy? I don't go for that. First of all, my PhD is in social work. Second of all, I'm an interfaith minister. I don't buy into any of that. We are all like one. We really are all one. And when you get on a plane and you take off and you look down, you don't see borders. And when you go into space, you definitely don't see borders anymore. They disappear. And I saw that happen in 9/11 when everybody was filled with gray ash. There was no color. It was gray ash. That's what defined you. And we all had something in common that we were survivors. So this culture of cruelty, that's a great, great topic that I want to get back to another time because I think it's really important. And what are we teaching our youth? We could do sociodramas until the cows come home. But if the culture of cruelty has been patented by those in authority, then I don't know what we can do. I don't know what technique will work. And we'll see how it goes if I survive these comments.
Mhm.
But I don't know, Dr.
We're
J,
going to keep fighting the fight. We're going to keep fighting the fight.
yes, we are. Yes, we are. So Jenna's really anxious to get on and say something now. So go ahead, say it.
Well, I think this is an important topic that we're talking about today that the rest of the nation is speaking about as well. And that's really to remember that with our technology, cyberbullying is 24/7, and that social media has a lot of harmful effects, but that it could be used for good. So there's a bunch of campaigns about like think before you post from Broward County Public School. And then also it's literally just called Take Back Social Media. So there's a huge push about detox. So people go weeks without any social media, weeks without even a smartphone. This is actually like really coming back now if you look into this. And so we could literally take back our social media. So I think that's a good way to end that, there are a lot of positive things in social media, and we just need to highlight those more. And if you do feel that your feed is filled with negativity, you are correct. They are targeting that. And to remember that we're here to support you in taking a detox. Um, and also want to make sure that I know everyone understands, but that the Stage for Change, how instrumental all the students who are in that club are, and for everyone to be aware that the process of planning, I know at least for the events that we do together, are at least 6 months. So we literally talk about the topic over 6 months ahead of time, meet several times, and just the amount of work that goes into it, I don't think people realize, and I just want to make sure to point that out, that each social drama, I know you say 3 scenes, each scene, in itself could be just one event, to be honest, but that each one takes at least 6 months of planning. So I just want to make sure that everyone gets their shout outs that they deserve.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you both for joining me. So appreciative of your work, of your brilliance, and your willingness to partner with me on these adventures. So thank you so much for being here tonight. And I look forward to our work again in the future. Thank you, Dr. Jungerson. Thank you, Jenna Stein, for being with us. So tonight we saw how creative research-driven practices like sociodrama can give young people a voice, can change attitudes, can address bullying in ways that traditional methods may not. And so my thanks again to my colleagues for their important work and for reminding us that research is at its best when it connects directly to community needs. Thank you. And I'm going to ask for Eddie Hammonds to please come on now. If he doesn't mind, then I'm going to spotlight his video. Great, thank you, Eddie. What happened behind the scenes, literally?
I don't know. I'm not here. Hold on.
Wow, that's really strange that your background is showing, but yet I don't see you. Well, that's okay. I can
Oh
hear you.
no.
I can hear you. I
Huh?
don't know what's happening, but that's okay. So, Eddie, I wanted to give you
Oh.
an opportunity to just kind of talk about, as the president of Stage for Change, and you've been involved with Stage for Change for how long now? How many years?
Since my freshman year, so 2 years.
2 years. 2 years. Wow. Excellent. And you are with Fischler College of Education, School of Criminal Justice, and you will very soon, this is your last year. You're right.
Second to last.
Oh, it's your
Second to
second to
last. I'm a
last.
junior.
It's a
Next
second
year's
to,
my last
okay, okay.
year.
Oh, good,
Yep.
good. I have you for a whole
Ye-
nother year. That's excellent. Good, because we're starting to get separation anxiety already. But so tell us a little bit, Eddie, about from your perspective as an actor, as the president of the organization, and also like, you were a member for 2 years. Tell us what,
Yeah.
your take is on all of this that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody really like hit it on the head. I think the work that we do is so important, and I think honestly, it's some of the stuff I'm the most proud of. Like when I graduate, that's going to be honestly the biggest thing that I tell people I got to do while I was in university.
Hmm.
And it is a lot of work, as much as it can be draining sometimes. I think honestly, just hearing from people how much it meant to them, like makes everything so worth it.
Yes, 100%. Thank you. You want to give us a little plug, shameless plug about when Stage for Change meets this season,
God.
this semester anyway?
So this semester, you won't believe it. We meet tomorrow. So we meet every Friday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And usually, unless for some reason they have to move the room, it's going to be in the Mailman Hollywood building in the second floor auditorium. So
Excellent.
if you ever want to
All right.
stop by, please stop by.
Yeah, and maybe you can throw your email address in the chat and maybe throw it in the YouTube also. So
Of
this
course.
way people can contact you if they're interested in Stage for Change. Um, Meanwhile, back at the ranch, there are a couple of questions here. I am going to get to Alpha Phi Sigma's shameless plug. Don't worry, Jillian. I'm not going to leave you hanging again like I did, last week. I'm so sorry about that. But let me read to you some of these questions, okay? So I'm going to ask Jenna, actually, Jenna and and Tara to come back because here's some questions that the audience has. So, Ariana says, this seems so cool. Are there ever criticisms from more old school folks saying that maybe this approach isn't serious enough? Said differently, is there any pushback on using this technique rather than having conversations directly? I could imagine that there are closed-minded folks who would see this as mocking situations rather than bringing awareness to situations. Who wants to address that?
I could give it a shot.
Okay.
I have not I am not aware, at least in the research that I've seen with our data that we've collected. I'm not aware that there's been any like pushback on that. Especially once they see it. If they see it on paper, perhaps they might, I could see people saying, "Oh, let's do a more direct versus indirect approach." But my experience has been after they experience it, then something clicks and they see it. But Jenna, you might have a different take on that.
No, I completely agree. And I think it's important, and I saw that you answered that in the question already, that no one is kind of being forced to talk or to go on stage, only those who want to. So I think that's also why there's not any like negativity or like, why don't you talk about this directly? Because in 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 schools and in events, we do that, right? So we have a presentation and we're directly talking about these topics, and this is just an alternative to that as well. And then there's no one saying like, no, I don't want to participate in that, because part of it could just be sitting in the audience observing, just as you would a traditional presentation. So for those who are like outgoing and into that, they're going to be the ones to get on stage, or participate, so to speak.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, good. So look, there's a couple of other questions that I want to just throw your way, and let's see who wants to answer them. Josh Blotzer, one of my students, says, it seems that all schools have some form of zero tolerance policy on the issue of bullying. And his anecdotal experience is that this tends to be a little more than paying lip service to the issue. Is there any research on schools being a confounding variable for anti-bullying efforts due to a perception that school staff and faculty are giving tacit approval through their inaction or minimization of complaints about bullying? Jenna, you want to answer that because you're kind of in the field with these schools, right? What do you think?
I think with any place that you go to school, live, or work, that there could be maybe, one person that you could rely on, and then that could be opposite too, right? One person maybe that is not helping the situation.
Yeah,
Um, so I would just say that try to go to the person who is helping. Um,
right.
I guess like everyone's human, so there could be, you know, someone who is not helping, if you're worried to come forward, I guess is kind of what this sounds like, possibly.
I think it's
Uh,
more like they're complicit in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So there it's and I actually have an example that this happened. I'm not going to name it. I'm not going to say it, call it out loud. I'm already on thin ice with some of the stuff I've said already. But I do want to just say that this actually happened. We took sociodrama to a middle school and a high school, and actually the audience, which were kids, started bullying the actors, my actors. And as the facilitator, as the Joker, that's the name of that's the title of the facilitator in sociodrama, is the Joker. But as the Joker, my job is to be neutral and objective and not to take sides. But in this case, I had an obligation to my ensemble. I had an obligation to the actors. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because guidance counselors and teachers were all standing in the back and not doing anything. Like, in fact, these kids and these were rich kids, by the way, very entitled kids. They were actually a little bullying to the faculty. So the faculty was afraid to stand up and say anything and discipline. And I think that was for fear of maybe parents' involvement. But in any event, it was in the Jewish tradition a mishagas. It was what it was. But it was so bad that I would not allow us to go the following week because I have an obligation to protect my students at all costs. They're doing this for free, and I'm not going to allow audience to start heckling them, which was bullying, in my opinion. And the faculty didn't do anything. And I think that that's what Josh is talking about.
Yeah. And I
That
would say too,
variable? Yes. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I would say too, Josh, no, that is a great research topic, and I encourage you to pursue it.
And oh well, that sounds like there might be an option or an opportunity for Dr. Jungerson to be on your committee.
Absolutely.
We allow that. That's fine. It's not a problem.
Mhm.
All right, let me do one more, okay? One more good one. This is a good one. Maybe for you, Dr. J. Rachel Yates asks, what risks or limitations should facilitators slash educators consider when using sociodrama without at-risk youth?
Mhm.
So what are the
That
risks?
is a great question. Yeah, that is a great question. You want to prevent any sort of vicarious trauma to the audience, to the participants, and as you said, to the actors. And so I think it's being sensitive to, okay, where's the edge, and let's like come up to it. That some things are implied and not necessarily directly stated. I think also you've got to read the room. You've got to watch the room.
Right.
You also have to bracket the experience. You have to tell, any sort of trauma informed. This is an intervention, but trauma responsive interactions. You tell the people what they're going to see, so that they can get in that space to be psychologically protected. And what's also very important with this process is at the end, the ensemble comes out of character, the actors come out of character, and then they're themselves. And they get to debrief with the audience, with the facilitators, and that sort of thing. And as Grace mentioned, I think that's why we always try to have a subject matter expert, a clinician, or somebody that is very familiar with the topic to be on hand if any sort of questions arise, or if any sort of issues were to come up with that.
Exactly. This also made me think about we took and I'm going to spotlight Jenna again. We took a sociodrama into a treatment center, and we're very into realism, making this as real as possible. We don't want this to be like the audience goes, that would never happen kind of thing, right? We want them to just really feel the aliveness of this. And so we were doing something around addiction and relapse. And this is the first time out of the box that we were doing it. It was called Addict Man.
Mhm.
And we went to the treatment center. So this is a group of, folks they're in, it was beyond detox. So they're in treatment. It's residential. They can't leave. And we did a scene where the drug dealer comes over. There's something that happens. It's an exchange, and the addict who was in recovery is holding the drugs.
Mm.
After it was over, we got some feedback that really triggered people. Now, just like good researchers, we don't harm. So beneficence, right, is something that we're always aware of in research. That's the cost to benefit ratio. Is the research question good? Good, yay, great. But is it going to harm the participants? Then not good. So in the same way, this technique works, but we don't want to harm our audience in any way. So the next time we did that, we recognized that it wasn't necessary to actually show anything, right? It could just be sort of, implied, and that was less triggering for the audience. So that these are things that we learn through trial and error. But I, certainly don't want to make that error ever again. So Jenna and Tara, anything last licks?
I just want to thank you so much for having me, and Jenna, it's such lovely to work with you as well. And thank you so much.
Thank you again, Dr. Jungerson, for being with us. And Jenna, thank you again. Anything else? Last words?
I just want to echo what has already been said. I see a few questions we didn't answer, but
No.
I really appreciate everyone being on. And I'm really excited to continue to partner with both of you.
Thank you. Thank you again. And if anybody's interested in this work, Augusto Boal is the creator of Sociodrama and Forum Theater and Theater of the Oppressed. Theater of the Oppressed is a wonderful organization. You can just Google that and see if you can get in touch with them for some trainings if you're interested in doing this and using this in your work. So I'm going to ask for Jillian Leon to come on. Jillian is the vice president of Alpha Phi Sigma. We always have to have a commercial, and here's a commercial right now. There she is. So tell us, Jillian, about Alpha Phi Sigma. What is it? And Omega Tau, which is our chapter. Why do we need people?
Yes. So, hey everyone, I'm Jillian Leon. I am the Vice President of Alpha Phi Sigma, the Criminal Justice Honor Society. So, if you're interested in joining the Criminal Justice Honor Society at NOVA, now is a great time to get involved. So, this society gives you the chance to connect with other students, attend special events, and boost your resume, which can in turn be extremely helpful and give you a boost in future careers in relation to criminal justice. So, to talk about the requirements, there are 3 requirements. You must be criminal justice based, maintain a minimum GPA of 3.2, and be in at least your second year at NOVA.
And
So,
is this open to just undergrads?
no, it's open to undergrad and graduate.
And so masters, doctoral, and even it's open to forensic psychology majors. It's open to legal studies majors, right? And I
Mhm.
think even maybe cybersecurity majors, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So, it is mostly criminal justice based, but it could be a minor, something that you're interested in.
Good.
Yes.
Jillian, thank you. Thank you so much for being here and doing that plug. Really appreciate it. And I do apologize again to you in front of all these people that I totally blew you off last week. And I apologize for that. It won't
Okay.
happen again. Thank you. So, all right, next week we are going to be with Dr. Matthew Goodnow, and we're going to hear examining the intersection of policing and mental health, analyzing Baker Act admissions in Davie, Florida, right here, right where we are in our campus. It's Dr. Matthew Goodnow and Chief Stephen Kinsey, the chief of the Davie Police Department. We have an amazing partnership with Davie Police. They are just so good to us, and we have just a really great collaboration and cooperation and partnership. And so I'm real excited about next week to hear about Dr. Goodnow, who is one of our students. He graduated with a PhD in criminal justice, and he did his dissertation on this, analyzing the Baker Acts in Davie. And it's really some exciting findings. So I really look forward to next week. I hope that you all join me. Thank you again to Dr. Durham, who is our dean, the dean of Fischler. Thank you for always being so supportive of us and allowing us this platform on the YouTube channel, which is the Fischler YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber, you need to do that right now before you forget. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this way you can also hit notifications bell. This way you know exactly when we go live. Thank you again. Good night, everyone.